What if I told you Michael Jackson didn't die that night? What if the king of pop, just moments away from his final breath, was taken, hidden, and silenced? Not by fate, but by design. Imagine a world where his final tour, "This Is It," actually happened. A world where his message about greed, corruption, and the dying planet reached billions. What would have changed? Who would have been exposed? And most chilling of all, why would someone want him gone? This isn't just a tribute. This is a question of truth, of power, of the future we never got to see. Because if Michael Jackson had lived, the world today might be unrecognizable. You think you know the story? You don't. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. Today, the world is louder than ever, yet somehow more silent. We scroll endlessly, we consume faster than we feel, and icons? They fade quicker than headlines. Music has changed, more manufactured, less message. Movements come and go, but rarely stay. We live in a hyper-connected planet, flooded with voices, but missing leaders. It's easy to forget that once, there was a man who moved the world, not just with rhythm, but with truth. Michael Jackson wasn't just a performer. He was a phenomenon. A bridge between generations, cultures, even continents. By 2009, he was preparing for the comeback of a lifetime. This Is It, a show not just of music, but of warning. He wanted to speak about the earth, about injustice, about the broken systems controlling us all. But that voice was silenced. Or so we were told. Now imagine this. What if that night never ended in tragedy? What if someone stepped in? Someone powerful enough to erase a life or protect it from being erased? What if, in a world drowning in noise, the most important voice was forced into silence? As of 2025, artificial intelligence governs algorithms, corporations rival governments, and attention is the new currency. Truth gets buried, unless someone dares to dig it up. So here's the question. If Michael Jackson had lived and kept speaking, would we be living in a completely different reality today? One with more light, or one where the shadows got even darker? Keep watching. You'll want to hear everything. It was supposed to be the end. June 25, 2009. The world held its breath, then let out a collective cry. Headlines screamed the impossible: Michael Jackson is dead. Cardiac arrest. Propofol. A private doctor. A home in Holmby Hills. On the surface, it looked tragic, but explainable. Predictable, even. A broken star collapsing under pressure. But for those who looked closer, the pieces didn't fit. The timeline was blurry. The paramedics never recognized him. The autopsy delayed. The surveillance footage? Missing. And the body never shown. Fans mourned. The media feasted. And just like that, the king was gone. Or was he? Because somewhere in the chaos, silence began to speak. Witnesses whispered about unmarked helicopters. About masked men entering and exiting through back gates. About a decoy ambulance and a second van that left with no lights. Conspiracies were dismissed, naturally. But here's the question. What if one of them was true? What if someone knew that Michael's message about the climate, the corruption, the control was about to reach too many people? What if silencing him wasn't just convenient, it was necessary? And what if, just what if, that night was not a death, but a disappearance? Think about it. When someone holds that much power, that much influence, do they really get to leave the stage on their own terms? Or does someone pull the curtain for them? Stay with us. Because what comes next rewrites everything. The day after June 25, 2009, the planet seemed paused. Over 1 billion people searched his name online within 24 hours, crashing servers, freezing headlines, uniting strangers in shared disbelief. Vigils lit up streets from Tokyo to Cape Town. Grown men wept. Children wore single gloves in silence. But while the world mourned, others started to notice. First, the inconsistencies. The 911 call didn't mention his name. The paramedics later admitted they didn't recognize the world's most famous face. The coroner's report? Riddled with gaps. Official documents misaligned. Then came the footage, or rather, the lack of it. No hospital security tapes. No clear images of the ambulance arriving. Just grainy snapshots and then silence. Months passed. And then something strange. A private jet, unregistered, seen flying from Van Nuys Airport hours after his declared time of death. Destination, unknown. On board, unidentified passengers under federal clearance. Coincidence? Or controlled extraction? Fans began sharing maps, timestamps, even slowed down video of someone stepping out the back of the ambulance, thin, covered, alive. And slowly, the grief turned to questions. Why were all major media outlets repeating the same script? Why did witnesses near his house report men in earpieces, carrying suitcases, not stretchers? And above all, why did so many people feel, deep down, that he wasn't really gone? This wasn't a fantasy anymore. It was becoming a pattern. And if the truth was being hidden, what else was being protected? You're not ready for what's coming next. Here's what no one expected. In 2010, just 1 year after Michael's death, a leaked internal document from a former intelligence analyst referenced something called Project Eclipse, a classified protocol for the extraction and relocation of high-risk public figures. It detailed how, in rare cases, individuals with the power to disrupt global narratives could be removed under the guise of death to prevent larger societal collapse. Fiction? Maybe. But then came the deeper research. Did you know? There are over 400 recorded instances of individuals declared legally dead who were later found alive. From political defectors to whistleblowers. It's not just possible, it's happened. The science behind it? Shockingly simple. A medically induced coma. Vital signs suppressed to near undetectable. Enclosed, silent environments. False autopsies, especially in private facilities. All legal if signed under emergency national security orders. And here's where it gets darker. In 2021, a cryptic voice message surfaced on a private server, never traced. The voice? Unmistakably his. Same rhythm, same tone. A whisper. They said I had to disappear, but I'm still watching. Experts tried to debunk it, failed. Audio engineers couldn't prove it was fake or real. And that's the point. Because if someone like Michael Jackson, a man watched by millions, could be quietly erased, medically silenced, legally dead, what else could be hidden from the public? What truths are too dangerous to know? And who decides when the music stops? In today's world, truth leaves a digital footprint. Every voice, every blink, every biometric detail traceable, scannable, analyzable. And here's where things get strange. In 2019, a facial recognition algorithm flagged a match at 94.7% certainty between Michael Jackson and an unidentified man seen in backstage footage at a humanitarian summit in Kenya. The footage was dismissed, blurry, distant. But the AI didn't forget. Months later, a voice analysis tool trained on thousands of Jackson's vocal samples picked up a near-perfect match in a low-budget podcast recorded anonymously in Romania. Same timbre, same breath pattern. Not similar, identical. Experts were baffled. How is this possible? Enter deepfake technology, the ultimate cover and the ultimate threat. With today's tools, anyone can be anyone or no one. But here's the twist. The original podcast was dated to 2011, before such tech became mainstream. So what's more likely? A deepfake before the deepfake era, or a voice that never truly went away? And science keeps asking questions. Could cryogenics, gene therapy, even neurological suspension have played a role in preserving someone like him? Billionaires have invested in these technologies for years. If they're using it, why not someone worth even more? Fame, power, truth. They're no longer just public domains, they're assets. And assets get protected or erased. So ask yourself, in a world where technology knows everything, why can't it prove he's really gone? Let's say he did survive. The question isn't just how, it's why. Some believe Michael Jackson went into hiding to protect himself from the industry, from threats, from a machine he could no longer control. They say he wanted peace, anonymity, a chance to heal and fight from the shadows. That he's been funding silent environmental movements, guiding young artists through encrypted channels, even leaking messages through music that isn't officially his. A quiet legacy without the spotlight. But others paint a darker picture. What if he didn't disappear by choice? What if he was taken by those who feared his voice, his message, his reach? A global icon preaching about climate collapse, media manipulation, elite corruption, too loud, too dangerous. A liability. They say he lives in a digital prison, watched, controlled, isolated. Kept alive not as a man, but as leverage. As warning. Two theories. One hopeful, one horrifying. And here's the hardest part. Both might be true. Because power never disappears, it shifts. And when someone holds the power to awaken millions, that power must be managed. Some say the world is worse without him. More divided, more blind. But what if the cost of bringing him back would have been even higher? More chaos, more war. The truth is, every revolution creates enemies. And sometimes, the only way to save the world is to disappear from it. So now you have to ask, was he silenced? Or did he choose the silence? And what would you have done? When a voice like Michael Jackson's disappears, whether by force or by choice, something shifts in the fabric of our world. We lost more than music. We lost a mirror, a warning, a leader who dared to speak about the earth burning, children crying, systems failing, long before it became trending. In his absence, a vacuum formed, and something else filled it. Manufactured stars, empty lyrics, algorithms deciding what you hear, what you feel, what you believe. A new kind of evolution began, one shaped not by heart, but by data. Culture became a product, truth, a target, and humanity, a consumer. If Michael had stayed, would he have slowed this transformation? Would he have exposed what was coming? Or was his silence the very cost of progress? Some argue that what replaced him wasn't just different, it was designed. A generation raised not on messages, but on metrics. And now, we're here, in 2025, with AI writing our stories, machines predicting our dreams, and synthetic voices replacing real ones. The warning signs were always there. We just stopped listening. Maybe that's what hurts the most. Not that he left, but that when he was here, we didn't hear him loud enough. And now, we wonder, was his disappearance the beginning or the end? Maybe this was never just about Michael Jackson. Maybe it's about what we, as a species, choose to hear and what we choose to silence. We had a voice that sang of unity, love, danger, warning, and we buried it under gossip, ratings, scandal. Whether he died or disappeared, the result was the same. We lost a message we weren't ready to receive. And now, the question isn't where he is, it's where we are. In a world driven by speed, spectacle, artificial perfection, what place is left for inconvenient truth? What happens when the people who see too much, feel too deeply, are pushed aside because they make us uncomfortable? Do we evolve into a wiser, more aware humanity? Or do we trade depth for distraction, compassion for consumption? This is our turning point. We can keep pretending that truth is only what trends, or we can start listening again. Not to noise, not to fame, but to voices that challenge us, remind us, disturb us. Voices like his. The choice is simple, but not easy. Keep moving forward blindly, or finally open our eyes. Not just to what we lost, but to what we're still losing. Every silence we allow becomes a part of us. So the question is no longer, what happened to Michael Jackson? It's what's happening to us. You remember how this started, right? What if I told you Michael Jackson didn't die that night? Back then, it sounded like a theory, a curiosity, maybe even entertainment. But now you know it was something more. A mirror held to our face. Because the truth is, this story was never just about Michael. It's about all of us. What we value, what we ignore, what we let die, even while it's still alive. And I'll be honest with you, that scares me. The idea that someone could scream the truth to millions and still be buried beneath silence. That even legends aren't safe from being erased. That maybe, somewhere right now, he's still alive, watching, waiting, wondering if we've learned anything, or if we do it all over again. So let me ask you, not as a narrator, not as a stranger, but as one human to another. If you had something the world needed to hear, would you dare say it? Even if it meant losing everything? Or would you stay silent, like we did? Leave a comment. Tell me what you believe. Not what's popular. Not what's easy. What's real. Because stories like this, they're not fiction. They're just truths, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. So now that you've heard it all, what do you hear in the silence?